Hello everyone and welcome to the first Dux-Soup webinar of 2023. My name's Adam Osman and I'm delighted to be joined today by Will van der Sanden, our founder, and Giles Garnett, our expert head of professional services. Today's webinar is called Automation Tricks to Smash Your LinkedIn Goals in 2023. Just a couple of quick points before we start. This webinar is being recorded. I think that's the #1 question I see across all the webinars that we run, and a replay link will be sent out later today. And secondly, if you have a moment, just quickly pop into the chat, and if you're a Dux-Soup user, put down the name of the Dux product that you're using. It's either free, turbo or pro, and maybe put down what your biggest LinkedIn lead generation challenge is for 2023. So that will give us a bit of an idea as to our audience today. So in terms of our agenda, we'll kick off in a second with Giles talking about the top 3 automation tricks. So think of this as distilled best practice that can quickly get big results on LinkedIn. Then I'll take a look at some of the trends that we're seeing that may affect what you do on LinkedIn and with your lead generation in 2023. And finally, we'll look at some of the exciting platform developments we have for Dux-Soup that are coming up this year. If you've got any questions, just pop them in the chat, and we've got plenty of time at the end for a Q&A. And then I'll end with some other important information about upcoming webinars and other things of value. And we'll also tell you how you can pick up one of these nifty Dux-Soup caps. So without any delay, let me hand over to Giles.
Awesome, thank you, Adam, and for the introduction there. And Happy New Year to everyone, wherever you may be. Just a quick point, which I should have told Adam earlier. We say about putting things into the chat box, but actually because of GoTo's quirkiness, it's actually the questions box. That's where you need to put it, because there is no chat box for all the users. So I forgot to mention that to you the other day, Adam, so apologies for that. So very briefly, I'm going to give you 3 pointers to get you going with your lead generation activities for 2023. They're kind of our greatest hits of the last year or so. They're based upon what we've seen happening and your feedback as users. So if you can flip to the next slide, please, Adam. So it's one that we've touched on repeatedly, and I've mentioned a number of times in the webinars. If you've got a Sales Navigator account, you get a certain number of in-mail credits per month. But with Dux-Soup, you can also target those people who accept free in-mails. So you can go reach out to those over and above your credits. This functionality is available on both paid versions of Dux-Soup, and we covered this in detail in a webinar last May. We've had a fantastic response from people who've had great success with it. So you see the link there at the bottom. If you go to our blog pages, which is available on our homepage under resources, do a search for InMail, you will find a step-by-step guide as to how to make the most of your InMail outreach. Go to your actions there, you populate your InMail, and then basically you go to the skipping rules there and skip if not an open link member. If you're not familiar with some of the terminology I'm using here because you're new to Dux-Soup or whatever, jump onto our web pages, have a look at the blog posts, look up InMail, it takes you step by step through the process. Cool. Next one, please, Adam. Oh, that was 2. Go back 1. There we go. Visit. So we all know about LinkedIn limitations when it comes to sending invitations. So as well as the InMail hack that I just mentioned, you can use to build your network over and above your usual invites, you can use Dux-Soup to visit literally hundreds of profiles. Couple of points: ensure you have your visibility set accordingly, i.e. not private mode, and every profile you visit will get a notification that you visited them, and maybe you'll get a reciprocal visit back, or maybe even a connection request. For many users, this has become a useful way to grow their network over and above that traditional way of sending invites. Associated with this, find people on LinkedIn who work in your sector or industry and look to see if you can see their connections, because those can be fantastic resources, those lists to visit. If you're running Pro or Turbo, you can then download all of the data relating to those profiles that you've visited. So essentially what you do is you go into your Dux-Soup options, you turn off all the automation options, and then you go to your list and you just visit the profiles. Again, this is covered in our documentation in our blog posts as well. And the next one, please, Adam, the number 3. Targeting and customizing, and I cover this a lot in our webinars, and you've probably heard me bang on about this repeatedly, but I can't re-emphasize this enough. Make sure you're making use of all the search facilities available to you. So whichever platform of LinkedIn you're using, whether that's Sales Navigator, Standard LinkedIn, or Recruiter, make use of those to make sure you're building the best quality lists of prospects that you can. And then make sure that your messaging and campaigns link together, they're constructed with relevance to your audience. A little byproduct of this as well, just another tip when it comes to reaching out with Dux-Soup campaigns, do not bombard your connections with messages every couple of days. Give prospects time to read, absorb, and reflect on your communications. And there's nothing worse. I mean, we've all seen it. There's nothing worse than accepting a connection request from someone and receiving 4 or 5 messages in a week. It's an immediate turn off for people. So give people time to digest. Remember, with Dux-Soup, you can build as many campaigns as you like. So the possibilities there are endless. But do make sure you target good quality lists. It unlocks all sorts of potential if you do those 3 things. So those are my 3 highlights. I'll pass back to Adam, and yeah, any questions, then get them in the question box for later.
Actually, Giles, I do have one question for you. I should have flagged this up to you earlier that I was going to do this. When you're visiting profiles, I really like that tip to help sort of grow and build your network. Are there any limits on how many profile visits you can do in a day?
It depends on what sort of LinkedIn account you have. So if you have a free LinkedIn account, there will be a limit as to how many profiles you can visit. And if you go to your Dux-Soup options and the throttling settings there, that's where you control all of that functionality, all of those numbers. I think we've got some standard numbers in there, and Will may correct me if I get this wrong, but the general guide is if you've got a free account, you can visit around 100 profiles a day. But it's one of those things, the more you do on LinkedIn and the more success you have, the more you can do. So yeah, if you've got a Sales Navigator account, expect to be able to visit sort of 400 or 500 profiles a day, that kind of number. All of these things are valid, but yeah, the more you do, if you build it up over time, then what we see is that the LinkedIn algorithms then let you do more. They expect your accounts to be busier. So over time, you can certainly increase your possibilities there.
Just to add to that, one other trick as part of this using the visiting feature. If you are on a free LinkedIn account, then you probably also know that even the number of searches you can do is limited. If you do too many searches in LinkedIn, then after probably 10 or 20 in a week, you will be prompted to go premium. And Dux-Soup does have the option to, well, for example, use group members, or also use the Google X-ray function to still find profiles and then still visit those to trigger this notification mechanism. So yeah, just to make a point of that, using the free version of LinkedIn and the auto visiting, you can also go around this limitation in search.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Yeah, if you are using free LinkedIn, you tend to see the search limit warning before you get a, hey, you've visited enough profiles for now.
Yeah.
Cool, thank you. That's a good explanation to my question. So now I'm going to look at some of the trends which we think might affect what you do on LinkedIn in 2023. I found a great quote from Hootsuite, the social media company, and it talked about how successful social marketers will take the time and effort. They want to carefully assess their opportunities using a scalpel rather than a cleaver. And my takeaway from this really is, I think the days of doing a massive volume play on LinkedIn with automation tools is probably over. And as Giles has talked about, there's some really neat ways in which you can target and narrow down your focus quite effectively. Personally, I don't think we've seen the end to LinkedIn playing around with connection limits, and it wouldn't surprise me if they did something else later this year. But staying safe is obviously one of our key priorities for people. And I really want to encourage everyone to try and block out some of the noise on the LinkedIn lead generation forums. People are always saying things like, oh, you should only use a cloud platform, or I only trust my LinkedIn account to a virtual assistant. But we know, because Dux mimics actual user behavior, and if you're using the recommended settings, it very much lowers the risk of detection by LinkedIn. But I think, again, building on something Giles said earlier about having an integrated approach, I think what I like to think of is a hybrid approach. Think about using, or how you can use an automation tool to really take care of some of those really time-consuming things that might be taking up a lot of your day, such as sending out lots of connection requests or visiting lots of profiles, or even sending out nurture messages to help keep your contacts warm. So use Dux to automate as much of these activities as possible, and that's going to free up your time to focus on the opportunities, to focus on qualifying opportunities, to progress them through your pipeline and hopefully on closing. The second trend came out from a quote I saw from a HubSpot report, and I'm sure many of you will recognize this particular scene from the TV show Friends, where Ross is shouting "pivot" at his friends trying to get this sofa up the stairs. But HubSpot said one of the best tactics for 2023 that people will use is plan to pivot. You only need to look at something like Twitter to see how a platform can change quite quickly overnight in terms of how useful it is. And we know Twitter is losing a lot of users at the moment. So the other thing HubSpot said is that around 20% of marketers are already pivoting, in particular around their messaging. So this time last year, everything perhaps was a bit more positive. So people might be using things like growth and revenue and sales as part of their messaging. And now, because obviously the global economy is perhaps not looking as strong, and a lot of countries have some challenges at the moment, people are pivoting their messages to maybe talk around fast return on investment, or rapid impact, and even cost minimization. So I think a lot of the companies and people that came through COVID and lockdowns most successfully were ones that actually pivoted their business models quite quickly. So plan to pivot in 2023. And then the third trend to think about is looking for incremental improvements. How can you optimize your profile? I think probably one of the best profiles I've seen comes from Tyrone Giuliani, who's one of our regular speakers on guest webinars. If you go and have a look at Tyrone's LinkedIn profile, he's actually re-engineered it away from being a CV or a resume, as he calls it. And he's turned it into a microsite. He uses lots of images, testimonials, video, fonts, anything he can use to help increase engagement and make his profile more appealing. And why is this important? Well, one of our guest bloggers, Tracy Enos, talked about this recently. I think she said something like 99% of your LinkedIn activities will actually come back to your profile. And if you think, people will look at your picture and they'll look at your headline. And if these two are letting you down, it doesn't matter if the other 99% of your profile is pure gold, it won't matter. So if you look at these two pictures on the screen, the profile picture on the left is the very first picture I threw up on LinkedIn when I first opened an account. And I actually left it up there for years. And one of my colleagues recently said she saw that photo and she thought I looked like an accountant. It was a very boring profile. So I actually went away and I split tested my photo against a newer version on photofeeler.com. And what it actually showed was that the more relaxed photo was a lot more relatable, a lot more likable. So if you think about the image I create when someone lands on my LinkedIn profile, hopefully they see less of the boring accountant and they see someone a bit more open, a bit more friendly, and perhaps more in tune with who I am and my role in marketing. The other tip around incremental improvements is about being authentic. I speak to a lot of people who say that they're really looking to engage with people who are genuine. So if you're doing a content strategy and publishing content, think about your tone of voice and make sure your content reflects your own values. And the reason this is important is more and more people are doing greater diligence in terms of who they want to engage with and who they want to connect with. So if you're in recruitment, for example, or you're looking to recruit someone, people are going to be looking to you to see what kind of person you are, what kind of company you work for. If you're in sales, they want to see that you're a regular stand-up person, a good person to engage with, and a good person to give up some of their time to. So think about that authenticity. But within these three trends for you to think about and how they might impact your LinkedIn, I think change, how you deal with change, is probably a constant. That's why at Dux we do spend a lot of time listening to our users and hopefully developing the platform accordingly. So I'll hand over to Will, who will talk about some of the developments that we've got coming up.
Thank you, Adam. Yeah, no, we do listen to our users a lot, not just on our feedback side, but also through our support calls and our booster calls that Giles does many of, and yeah, just on the email channel that we have at the chat. So on all the different channels, we listen and see what's on their minds of the customers and where we should be focusing our time. Obviously, we also have our own view on where we want to take the product. So yeah, so that's what I'm going to talk about briefly here. What to expect from Dux-Soup in 2023. Well, the first one, there will be 3 points here. So in case you're wondering how many of these slides are going to be coming your way. So the first one, team functionality, is one of the most requested areas of functionality that we will be spending some work on to support the different use cases that people are telling us about. And so now we're looking at areas to support the coordination of the LinkedIn outreach between team members. Obviously, when you're working in a small or medium-sized or a larger company, you tend to be part of a team when you're running a campaign. And well, at Dux-Soup, we recognize that it would be very helpful if the product supported this particular pattern. And then, yeah, we're looking at having different team members, basically make sure they don't trip over each other in running on the same profiles, and being able to share campaign definitions, that sort of thing. Also looking at ways to support campaigns with different roles. The difference, because LinkedIn is really a person-to-person kind of communication channel. Within your campaign, you will generally want to well, have different roles. For example, you will first probably have a sales rep, and then maybe a marketing manager, or maybe a CEO that you want to introduce in your campaign. And obviously that will need to be orchestrated between different team members with different roles in the company as well. And we're looking at ways of making that possible. And then finally, looking at ways to be able to compare the performance of different team members on the campaign. So the number of messages sent, things, yeah, pretty basic KPIs maybe, but still it will give the marketing manager or the whoever's running the campaign an idea of who is performing best, and see what people can learn from those people who are running better KPIs. So that's on the team functionality. Then next up, cloud deployment. Well, the main area where we've seen this to be a request is with digital agencies. So those are agencies that run tens or maybe hundreds of profiles on behalf of, or LinkedIn profiles on behalf of their customers, and for them, to make the deployment and operations easier on a day-to-day basis. We're looking at having some cloud deployment there. Also, when we've heard people who are on the road a lot or who switch workstations a lot, for them it can be quite tricky to manage the daily running of Dux, and well, and to basically to fill that particular requirement, to make it easier for those people to run. And that also is part of the cloud deployment solution that we're looking to roll out in 2023. That's cloud deployment. And then finally, the campaign AI. And well, it's something that's been on our minds for quite a while, and triggered even more with the more recent AI in the news with ChatGPT. I'm sure everyone has heard about that, where AI is really getting to a level where for a lot of basic communications some might even say advanced, but it's becoming more and more reliable in trusting it to make the right decisions, if you give it enough of the right data sets, obviously. So we're looking for adding campaign AI to campaigns, and really to reduce the manual effort required when running campaigns. For Dux-Soup really is all about automating what can be automated, so that you can spend more time at the end of your funnel with the prospects who are most interested. But obviously there's a lot of work in getting a prospect from the start to the finish, and yeah, to minimize the manual time. That's where we really want to focus on the use of AI. But then we are looking into areas like automatic enrolling of profiles into a campaign. At the moment, you need to add your own profiles to a campaign, but what we're thinking, if you specify enough criteria, then the AI should be able to decide on who to add to the campaign, and that will relieve the user of some time to do more critical things. Also, the automatic qualifying of prospects, qualifying in or out, or even reflowing them in terms of funnel flow terminology. That is an area that at the moment is a full manual process, where you need to read through the responses and then decide what to do with the prospect. And I think AI can help there. And then finally, answering simple questions. We obviously see it already a lot on the chat boxes on websites, but that can be quite crude, as it is very obvious. That is very obvious a bot, but that's not what we're aiming for here. It's really to recognize those requests for particular info to then be able to auto respond and not having to manually intervene there. So that's where the AI comes into play. So that, yeah, those for me are the main focus areas for 2023, and that is not to say that there isn't anything else we're obviously looking into. Back to you, Adam.
Thank you, Will. So I imagine the first question people will ask is, what are the likely timescales for these three to make its way through to the product, would you say?
In likely timescales, you need to see this in basically in the order I just presented it. Unfortunately, it's 3 points, not 4, but otherwise I would go for Q1, Q2, and Q3. But yeah, so it's the current focus. The first focus will be on adding team functionality, because that is the most, in my view, the most pressing, and I think also in Giles' view. Cloud deployment will be next. It also is time together with some changes in the Chrome extension API. And then lastly, towards the probably, well, let's say after the summer holidays, around that time, maybe even autumn holidays, looking into adding the AI functionality. And this is obviously not committing to anything. This is just giving you a general idea of where the focus will be in terms of these different areas.
Great, thank you. I think that makes sense. I guess also in terms of priority and the feedback from users driving the developments on the platform. Okay, so we now move into the Q&A section. We'll check with my colleague Jin. Have we had any questions come in?
Yes, we have a couple of questions. I guess the biggest one is, besides the automated follow-ups and increased visits and connection requests, are there any other big advantages of Turbo? What is the most popular function?
Okay, shall I go for that? Or I think the most popular function is, from what I've heard, the drip campaigns. The fact that it's really a hands-off, automated LinkedIn outreach that you run with once you've added your prospects into a funnel, then it's really it runs nearly on its own, apart from obviously a few touch points that you need to handle yourself. That makes the running of campaigns in Turbo a lot less time consuming than in Pro. And then secondly, I think the integration with HubSpot, integration with Pipedrive are really very popular and very useful, then that we see as well. Then it's something obviously not available in Pro. There was no integration whatsoever.
Yeah, just to add to that, yeah, the from my experience from dealing with many customers, speaking with many users, the things that make Turbo worthwhile are the campaigns, the fact you can build unlimited campaigns and then sequentially you enroll people into different campaigns. There's the functionality whereby you can't enroll somebody into the same campaign twice, so you can't accidentally outreach with the same message to people, so that's good. And then finally, the integrations, the ones that we've got there, that Will just mentioned, but also the possibilities that you can use Make or Zapier to integrate to other things, and there's the API, so that opens up so many possibilities to users. Certainly the last couple of weeks, since sort of mid-December or so, a lot of the calls I've had were with agency users who are looking to build their own integrations with their own solutions through the API or through Zapier. So there's a whole raft of reasons to go for Turbo over and above just the campaigns.
Thank you. I have another one. How do you use Dux-Soup to complement ABM campaigns, like one-to-one or one-to-few campaigns? Because customer is saying, my biggest LinkedIn challenge is how to turn connections made via Dux-Soup automation into engaging prospects, newsletters, subscribers, and customers.
Shall I take that one? Nodding from everyone else. Very enthusiastic nodding gentlemen. Yes, so that's where, as I said earlier, when you build a campaign, don't bombard people with loads of messages in that first week or two. Nurture your new contacts, build different content for them. One of the things that Tyron Giuliani, who Adam mentioned earlier, about how to create messaging that's relevant to your audience and making sure that you continually engage with people, you continually knock on the door. You have the ability with Dux-Soup, of course, in your campaigns, not to just send follow-up messages, but to carry out an auto visit in your campaign or to endorse a skill in that of your new prospects. So it's making sure that you continually get your name to pop up on their notifications or in their mailbox. Just reminds people that you're there. And of course, everything's constantly moving. People's situations change. So when you connect with somebody, it might not be a good moment for them to come back to you. But after, 2-3 months, however long it may be, if you're continually knocking on the door, their situation changes, then suddenly there may be an opportunity to engage with them from building the business relationship point of view. And they'll, yes, that name has popped up before and I know what they work in, because they've shared a bit of information here and there. Posting regularly on LinkedIn as well, because of course your posts get made visible to your followers and to your first degree connections. So that's one thing. And one thing that I've talked to a lot of users about recently is boosting your posts. So using there are certain networks you can become part of to help boost your posts to make them more visible. So if you are posting on LinkedIn, using those sorts of facilities, sharing those links in your messaging to your first degree connections, all of these things can assist in nurturing and making people aware of what you do. And of course, number one, making sure your profile looks good, like Adam said earlier.
Absolutely. Just want to add something. I think what this question also was alluding to is that once you run your outreach on LinkedIn via Dux-Soup for a while, then you do realize that really your source of truth in terms of where you keep a list of all your prospects and your customers, it should really not be LinkedIn. In fact, I would say it is crucial that you will adopt a CRM quite quickly to make sure that you have a single point of truth of where you know which customers you reached out, what you've told them. And that's exactly why with Dux-Soup we were able to pull out all the different bits of data and conversation from LinkedIn, to make sure you can put it into a store like a CRM, so you then have ownership of this data and you can use it when you need it, also for other campaigns like email campaigns. But yeah, definitely don't rely on LinkedIn as your as a way to manage your and on a long-term basis your prospects, because it is a very unfriendly environment for that particular purpose.
Thank you. I have a few questions for Will. Do you plan to mix channels, for example, email and LinkedIn messages to address prospects across the channels?
Yeah, actually, the email is something that I was looking into not so long ago. It's obviously pretty straightforward for us to add an email automation, because automating email is one of the easiest things to email, because there is an API available for that, so there's not much of a challenge. And I have had some I think in talks with customers some questions around that, if that would be possible. So I do think that we'll very soon have an email step that you can add in the campaigns. I do want to add that there's a fine balance between turning the campaign definition into a fully blown general purpose automation engine, and that's not really where we want to take it. But I think steps like that, I would definitely would add value to our customers. So that I would definitely think email will be a way of or something we want to combine. And other than that, I think using the webhooks, it's quite easy to link up more advanced automation and orchestration agents. And yeah, so you really should look for that for really advanced setups.
Nice, thank you. Another question, is the team functionality feature going to be Q1 or Q2? Because sales managers are asking this user to give more information on that.
Well, as I said, in the order of priority for us was just the order I just presented. So I would definitely expect some team functionality to make it into the product in Q1, maybe even in January already.
Nice. Also, with the AI, is there any plan to clean up company names as the, for example, CN message marker, because sometimes the company names are very long?
Yeah, no, the data cleansing data cleansing would be the right word. I think it's definitely also something that AI would be useful for, but there might even be more just a basic allowing users to add basic rules of data manipulation. But then that is a very good one actually, to also use AI for that sort of data cleansing, which can also be quite time consuming.
Thank you. I'm still going through the questions, so bear with me for a few seconds. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Is it worth talking about the caps now, Adam, then, maybe?
Yeah. So I think these caps are actually really nice. I quite like mine. What we decided is, if you want to be in with a chance of receiving one of our caps, please do go over to G2 and leave us a review. The link is on the screen, and we'll also post it in the chat for the website. Hopefully it will be a positive review. If you've sent us posted a review, just drop us an email, and the first couple of people who post a review will get one of these fab caps. And if you can say which color, if you have a preference.
Yeah, it's either blue or yellow, right? You can't just choose any color, right?
Yes. Yeah, blue or yellow are the two options that we have available. I think yellow modelled by Giles and blue by myself and Will.
Great. The link is in the chat box, so people should be able to see that and go directly to G2. I have a couple of questions again for Will. What CRMs are you looking to integrate with in the future?
Well, that's a good question. We did look at it last year. We had a vote on what the most popular CRMs were to integrate. I think Fresh Sales, if I remember the name correctly. Giles, correct me if I'm wrong.
Fresh Sales, Zoho was popular, and Salesforce are the ones that come up regularly.
Just on Zoho, actually, Zoho, we have a blog about how to integrate Zoho natively with the Dux-Soup API. One of our customers who is also specialized in Zoho integration has built that and helped us write a blog about that. So Zoho CRM should already be pretty well covered. And yeah, Salesforce, I think you have a blog using Zapier. Yeah. But that is also one that we looked at. It is surprisingly, well, it surprised me really when we looked into prioritizing the CRMs that there was not as as highly requested as I expected, to be honest. It seems that the people using LinkedIn for outreach tend to use more maybe agile systems like HubSpot and Pipedrive.
Along those lines as well, if I may add, that then it's not just CRMs we're looking at. There's also ATS systems that we're potentially looking at as well in the future. So it's not just that suite of CRMs that Will's just mentioned. You know, there are other, for example, ATS systems that recruiters may be using.
Yeah, so just to ask you a question, what is an ATS?
Application tracking system. Sorry.
Thank you.
I guess this is the last question. We have quite a few, so sorry if we will not answer all of them. But the last question is, are there any plans to simplify user interface?
Yes, there are. Those were for me, right? This question. We will actually already started development on that in only showing those functions that you are going to need when you're using Turbo in combination with campaigns, because we really are coming from different. The UI is coming from different angles. A pro user has different requirements than a Turbo user. But obviously we have a Turbo trial that people get for free when they first install the product, and also we don't necessarily want to confuse Turbo users who just want to run campaigns with all the different levers and buttons and switches that pro users need. So we're definitely looking into in effect hiding all this UI in the Turbo mode when you don't really need all these different settings because you just run a campaign. So yeah, absolutely, we are looking into and we'll I think very soon have a simplified UI that will make it a lot less scary for first-time users.
Thank you. Actually, the last question. So one of the issues that a couple of users are having is that once they enroll prospects into their campaigns, they cannot edit them later. Is this something that you are looking at to implement in the future?
I don't know what they mean by edit.
So let's say they need to change the message for the people that they already added into the campaign.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that is also, well, I mean, you can actually edit. So the way that Dux-Soup work is that once you enroll a person into a campaign, it's only when the the prospect has accepted your connection request that all the messages are scheduled, as in all of them are scheduled at once. So before that time, you can edit, and that will still be reflected in the messaging. But after that, at the moment, we have obviously we have a delete button, so you can remove these messages, and we are basically looking into expanding that UI where you view the pending activity to also be able to modify that pending activity. It's not really a massive leap from what we have at the moment to making it possible. So yeah, I do expect it, but also I think we have do we have a request already on our feedback site, Giles?
Yeah, I believe it is. I believe it's there. Yeah, to make queued activities editable.
So It's worth
Yep.
going to that site. It's a feedback.duxsoup.com, and if you find a request, just upvote it and get all your colleagues to upvote it, and we'll definitely get on it very soon. So yeah, you know, it is on our radar. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
So we talked about CAPS reviews. I think one of the really nice things about the Dux community is we put a lot of time and effort into our webinar program, and we've got a really strong set of 4 or 5 experts, guest speakers coming up in the first half of this year. Kicks off with Tracy Enos, and I mentioned her. I think she did a blog for us fairly recently, but she's going to do a webinar dedicated to looking at creating the perfect LinkedIn profile. That's on the 24th of January. If you haven't already received an email about booking, just go to Dux-Soup.com, and I think it should be on the top of the homepage, a link to register for that webinar. In addition, the only other thing I wanted to mention today is really, if you need help, we've got a fantastic support team. Regularly get praised for quality of service. Anything the support team can't answer, or if you want to go in a bit more detail, you can book one of our booster or technical calls with Giles, who again just consistently receives fantastic feedback on the quality of those. So this is designed to help people who want to go into a bit more depth about particular issues or how you're using Dux-Soup for LinkedIn lead generation. So that's the end of the session, really. I just want to finish up by saying thank you to Will and Giles for giving up the time to present with me today. And thank you also to our audience. Hopefully you've been able to take out some tips and tricks that you can use to help smash your LinkedIn goals for 2023. Thank you and goodbye.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Bye.